A few weeks ago, I was reading the latest article in the New York Times on social enterprise and education. Maybe some of you saw it. And there was a quote from a professor at Yale that struck me. Social entrepreneurship is a little like pornography. It's hard to define, but you know it when you see it. And I agree with that. I knew exactly what he meant. But for me, as a funder investing in social entrepreneurs, and for many of you as educators or aspiring change makers, that's just not good enough. We need to define what a social entrepreneur is. We need to understand the competencies that a successful social entrepreneur possesses so that we can train those competencies in new ones. So what we did at Joshua Venture Group is to define these competencies, and I'll talk about that. And your challenge as educators and aspiring change makers is to figure out ways, creative, effective, and hands-on ways to develop those competencies. So Joshua Venture Group finds inspirational and dynamic social entrepreneurs who are driving transformative change in the Jewish community. Our alumni and our current fellows are truly altering the face of contemporary Judaism. They are blending traditions and values with innovation and altering the face of contemporary Judaism. So how are they doing this? They are catalyzing cool Jewish music like the Hasidic rapper Matisyahu. They are bringing Bible stories to the internet through animated webisodes. And they're engaging our community in difficult conversations around homophobia, multiculturalism, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Joshua Venture Group selects 8 social entrepreneurs for our program every 2 years from all over the US. For each of these fellows, we provide $120,000 of funding. We bring them to 5 leadership and skills development retreats, and we provide ongoing mentoring and coaching over those 2 years. Now that's a lot of resources. So for us, being like the porn industry wasn't good enough. We needed to define what we were looking for and know what we were seeking. So we went to the experts. We worked with a methodology that corporations use to select candidates for jobs around competencies. So the definition that this methodology uses is measurable characteristics that include behaviors, skills, and attitudes related to performing successfully at work. In this methodology, there's over 80 of these competencies for all types of jobs. So we narrowed them down to 27 that we found most relevant to social entrepreneurs. And then we turned to the real experts. We asked successful social entrepreneurs, and we asked our alumni, Ashoka fellows, as well as our advisory council and board members, which are comprised of serial entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, capacity builders, and funders. And we asked them, out of these 27 competencies, which of these are not just important, but essential for success? Which are the mission-critical competencies? So I'm going to share with you what we found and what we selected for in our process. The first is action-oriented. This seems pretty obvious, and we've been talking a lot about it tonight. But it's really a truly distinguishing trait of social entrepreneurs. I would venture to guess that Sarah Haaretz wasn't the first person to look around and say, wow, there's a lot of people who are freelancing and self-employed. And I bet if they all got together, they'd be able to have better health plan, more affordable benefits. She wasn't the first person, but she's the only person who founded the Freelancers Union, who figured out how to do it. And 10 years later, 140,000 people across the US have more affordable health insurance and benefits because of her. The second we found was dealing with ambiguity. Holden Thorpe was talking about, and Buck were talking about the student in their class whose blood drained when they mentioned bankruptcy. And this is the same way. In dealing with ambiguity, the definition of entrepreneurship is moving forward without regard to resources. if making decisions in an uncertain world makes you want to throw up, then social entrepreneurship is not for you. The third competency is interpersonal savvy. And when you see successful social entrepreneurs that are widely respected, like Van Jones, like Nancy Lublin, you think, wow, they have amazing charisma. They're super articulate and personable. And that's what interpersonal savvy is about, but it's much more. It's also being able to relate to a really wide range of people. I'm going to tell you a little bit from my background. I worked in an organization called Rockport. It was a social venture company where we put on large-scale concerts with Ludacris and Busta Rhymes and Rihanna, and the only way you could get a ticket was to volunteer at service projects that we put together. And so a typical day for me in this job would be, let's say I was in Southern California, in the morning I would go to Boost Mobile, our corporate sponsor, and meet with their brand managers and sit in their boardroom in the industrial park in Orange County. And then I would drive across town and go to the mayor's office and meet with their staffers who are concerned about civic engagement in Los Angeles. Then I would go to East LA, meet with the OGs, the original gangsters who had been in and out of prison but are now transforming their community. Talk about how our volunteers could help them in their efforts. Then, lastly, I'd drive all the way to the west side, to the beach, to meet up with the surfing environmentalists from Heal the Bay. Now, at each point during this, I had to figure out what are their motivations? Why are they engaged in what I'm doing? How can I relate to them and earn their respect? Social entrepreneur is doing that on a momentarily basis with their board, their staff, their funders, their constituents. The fourth is learning on the fly. A lot of social entrepreneurs are so passionate about a specific issue, healthcare, the environment, education, and they know a lot about this issue. That's why they have a solution. But they're not trained to be social entrepreneurs. So they're constantly faced with new challenges, and you need to be able to embrace these challenges. One of our current fellows is an artist and a teacher, and she is bringing a new progressive artistic education model to her Russian-speaking Jewish community. She's quite radical in that community. And she's trained very well as an artist and a teacher. But now in the last 10 months since she received our fellowship, she's had to become a negotiator with community organizations. She's had to recruit and manage a board. She's had to become a grant writer and create budgets. And that's just a few things. So embracing learning new things and challenges also critical. The fifth is managing vision and purpose. I had the pleasure and honor of being the first employee at Upwardly Global, which was founded by Jane Liu, an Ashoka Fellow, and I think the AshokaU Entrepreneur in Residence last year. And the way she describes managing vision and purpose is, she told me, it's like Pilates. You gotta always bring it into the core. So there's all these opportunities out there. People want to give you money for this. They want you to expand your programming in this way that fits their agenda. You need to look at all those opportunities and make sure that they're aligned with your vision and always on the ultimate goal. You need to close doors in order to open new ones. The sixth is perseverance. Rejection is a daily occurrence in the life of a social entrepreneur. So if being told no, like we heard previous social entrepreneurs today telling stories, is going to also make you vomit, then again, there are other ways to drive change, through government, through established organizations, but when we were looking for people who were going to succeed in this difficult arena of social entrepreneurs, we knew they had to persevere to succeed. The last is self-knowledge. And this one actually trumped all of the other ones for us at the end of the day. When we got to the nitty-gritty of selection in the final interviews, we honed in on this competency. Because you have to know what you don't know in order to fill those gaps. And we talked about failure Failing is good, but what do you learn from that failure? So we would talk to people, what did they learn from their mistakes? What are their gaps? How do they fill their gaps? Do they take classes, or do they leverage the resources around them so that they can create whatever they want to without hindrances? So those are the 7 competencies that we focused on. And I know many of you are academics, and this is talking about a mythology, and you're probably debating and wondering how I did it and what the process is and what these words really mean. And I have a paper that I would be happy to share with all of you with all those details. And it's also on the website as well. So I also want to add that when we went through the selection, at the end of the day, this was a new process for us. And 10 months later, I can tell you that I'm really happy about the fellows that we selected. And I think that it worked really well. And we look forward to refining it. I want to leave you with a question. And that question is, now that we know what the competencies are for a successful entrepreneur, we have to work backwards. How can we design curriculum, create opportunities, create programs that develop these competencies so that amazing young people with great ideas can be successful and change the world? Thank you.